Looking back on the first time Riley encountered the legendary Yasmin, the whole thing still feels like a total fever dream. Amidst the swirling petals and the high-class aesthetic of the estate, Riley found herself caught in a situation she never saw coming. Standing in the dimly lit room, the noblewoman drops a total bombshell and commands her to just take it off. Internally, Riley was short-circuiting, thinking, wait, take it off. Is she for real right now? Blushing like a tomato and sweating bullets, the poor girl can barely process the request. Yasmin just keeps that calm, cool, and collected energy, assuring her that they're completely alone and no one can see them. In Riley's mind, this woman was a literal angel who showed up at her lowest point and saved her without a second thought. But as the clothes start coming off, the vibe gets incredibly heavy. Riley gives in with a shaky okay, her heart doing gymnastics in her chest. Yasmin reaches out with a gentle hand, the tension in the room thick enough to cut with a knife. She leans in close, noting that Riley is actually hurt pretty badly. As the noblewoman's warm voice and gentle touch brush against her skin, Riley feels like she's floating. She tries to play it cool, stammering that she's fine, thinking Yasmin is nothing like those other stuck-up, high and mighty nobles. But the sweet atmosphere doesn't last long. Suddenly, the touch becomes a bit too much and Riley lets out a startled yelp. Yasmin just teases her, calling her sensitive with a look that's low-key terrifying. That's when Riley realizes she was dead wrong about this lady being a saint. She had walked straight into a carefully laid trap, and now there was absolutely no escape. To understand how she ended up in this mess, we have to go back half a day earlier. The Siren estate was looking as majestic as ever under the morning sun. Inside, the maids were busy setting the tables, moving with a synchronized grace that would make a drill sergeant jealous. Meanwhile, the young Miss Yasmin was off being a literal prodigy, mastering the piano with effortless skill. But behind the scenes, the tea was spilling faster than it was being served. Rumor had it that the church wanted to officially appoint Yasmin as the next virgin priestess. The maids were gossiping about how she was a master of everything from poetry to archery, wondering what kind of man could even be good enough for her. They had to keep their voices down, though, because gossiping about the masters was a one-way ticket to getting the whip. Little did they know, one of their fellow maids was actually Riley, a wandering artist with a very special secret weapon. A magical paintbrush. Internally, Riley was scoffing. These nobles are just playing lapdogs for the church while the commoners bleed dry. She wasn't there for the career growth. She was pulling a high-stakes heist. Creating perfect fakes of the silver tea sets was her way of getting some payback for her friends in the slums. She even gave her trusty paintbrush a little mental kiss for being such a lifesaver. Back at the piano, Yasmin's fingers fly across the keys until she suddenly misses a note. She stops, looking frustrated because she's a total perfectionist. She clutches her necklace, feeling strangely on edge as if something or someone is out of place. Internally, she wondered why she felt so restless. Outside the room, the head maids are barking orders because the young miss is on the move. Riley watches the noblewoman walk by, her long hair flowing like a cape. She thinks the other maids are being extra loud, but she tries to blend in. When she finally comes face to face with Yasmin, Riley gives a polite greeting, hoping her cover isn't blown. Yasmin stops and stares, her gaze feeling like a literal X-ray. Riley starts sweating, thinking, wait, am I busted? Did she see through the fake teapot? Suddenly, Yasmin reaches out and touches Riley's neck. Riley jumps, internally screaming, "What are you doing?" Yasmin just smiles and says she's just fixing a crooked collar. She gives Riley a look that's way too intense for a simple collar fix. Riley is left dazed, barely able to form a sentence. Yasmin asks if she's new and Riley stammers out a thank you. She confirms she's the new girl, trying to act as invisible as possible. When asked for a name, Riley panics and blurs out her real one. Yasmin gives her a head pat, saying it's a pleasure to meet her. Riley immediately regrets her life choices, wondering why she just gave her real name to the target. The other maids are shocked, noting that Lady Yasmin seems to actually like the new girl. Riley tries to make a break for it, claiming she needs to go grab some water. But as she's hurrying away, her luck completely runs out. She trips, and all the stolen goods, the silver cups, and the teapot clatter across the floor for everyone to see. The atmosphere turned instantly. Riley stands there frozen as the other maids realize she's a total fraud. The fakes she created start to puff away into smoke, revealing her magic. Riley realizes she's in deep trouble and bolts. Night falls over the estate, and the moon is looking ominous. Yasmin is found in the chapel, offering up a prayer to the gods. She asks for heavenly fire to burn away the flesh of hypocrites. She looks like the picture of piety, her hands clasped tightly. She prays for the rains to wash away the lies where they take root. Kneeling in the moonlight, she looks like a saint. She calls herself a sinner, finishing her prayer just as a commotion breaks out. Outside, the guards are losing their minds, shouting to check everywhere. Yasmin opens her eyes, hearing the chaos approaching the chapel doors. Suddenly, the doors burst open and Riley comes flying in, looking like she's running for her life. She slams right into Yasmin, knocking the noblewoman off her feet. Riley is breathless, her hair a mess and her eyes wide with fear. Yasmin looks up at the girl who just tackled her, completely caught off guard. Riley realizes she's crashed into the one person she shouldn't have. In a moment of pure desperation, Riley reaches for her magical paintbrush. She tries to activate its power to create an escape route or a distraction. The magic flares up, glowing with a bright blue light, but the brush doesn't seem to be working the way she wants it to. With a final oof, the magic fizzles out. Riley finds herself pinned against Yasmin, the two of them in a very compromising position on the floor. Riley gasps out, Lady Yasmin?" They stare at each other for a long beat, the tension skyrocketing. Yasmin realizes that the thief everyone is hunting presenting is none other than new maid Riley. Instead of screaming, Yasmin just gives her a look that says she's found a new toy. The guards burst into the chapel, shouting that the thief is right there. They find Riley on top of their lady and immediately assume the worst. They drag Riley off of her, treating the girl like a sack of potatoes. One guard bows, apologizing for startling the young miss. Yasmin stands up, brushing herself off and acting like she's perfectly fine. Riley struggles, yelling for them to let go, but she's totally outnumbered. The lead guard calls her a brazen little thief, demanding to know how she dared to steal from the Siron estate. Before she can even answer, he lashes out with a whip. Riley takes the hit, the pain searing across her shoulder. The guard isn't done, yelling that he's going to teach her a lesson she'll never forget. He raises the whip for another strike while Riley braces for the worst. Suddenly, a cold voice commands him to stop. Riley peeks an eye open, confused by the sudden silence. The guards are just as baffled, staring at Lady Yasmin. Yasmin steps forward and takes the whip right out of the guard's hand. She looks down at Riley, her expression unreadable. The guards are shaking in their boots as Yasmin coils the whip around her hand. Riley is wondering what is even happening. What is going on? She thinks as the guards start sweating. Yasmin dismisses them all, stating she will question the thief alone. The guards don't dare argue and scurry out of the chapel like rats. Once they're gone, Yasmin's face softens into a sweet smile and she asks if Riley is okay. She tells Riley to follow her, saying her wounds need treating and they're finally alone. Riley is completely bewildered, her face heating up. She wonders why this noble woman would save her, especially after she tried to rob the place. Yasmin looks back with a teary-eyed, sympathetic expression. She takes Riley's hand and tells her to turn around so she can see the damage. She smiles, telling Riley it's all right and it doesn't hurt at all. Riley finds herself unable to look away, thinking Yasmin has this irresistible allure. She's drawn in by the noblewoman's mysterious vibe. With no other options, Riley decides she has no choice but to go along with whatever this is. Back in the room, Yasmin starts removing Riley's top to get to the whip marks. She leans in close, her breath hitching as she sees the wounds. The moon shines through the window as Yasmin gets to work. Riley is standing there half-naked, thinking, well, the top is already off. Might as well finish this. But as Yasmin applies the ointment, things start feeling a little sus. Riley thinks, is she really just putting on ointment? Why does it feel like she's touching me more than necessary? Yasmin points out a cut on the other side of Riley's chest, leaning in even closer. She looks Riley in the eye with a gaze that is definitely not just doctor energy. Riley panics, shouting that she can do that part herself. Yasmin just giggles, teasing her for blushing. She asks, aren't we both girls? As if that makes the intense staring okay. Internally, Riley is barking like a frustrated puppy, thinking that even between girls, you don't just stare at someone like that. Riley turns away, trying to hide her embarrassment, and says she's just used to doing everything herself. Yasmin asks about her family, and Riley's expression turns somber. She looks down, her eyes reflecting a painful memory. She remembers someone yelling to get her out of a dangerous situation. Riley realizes how alone she truly is. She admits that she doesn't have a family. She claims that being a wandering artist is the most freeing way to live. She tells Yasmin that a pampered lady probably couldn't imagine a life like that. Yasmin just hums her lingering on Riley's back. She tells Riley that she can tell her all her stories, promising to be a very good listener. She pulls Riley into a close embrace, the flowers surrounding them as the tension reaches a breaking point. Riley is left completely flustered, her brain failing to find a way out of this high-stakes social trap. Riley is currently having a total meltdown because Yasmin is breaking every noble rule in the book by getting way too close for comfort. Standing behind the curtain, Yasmin radiates major main character energy while Riley just wants to disappear. Yasmin casually orders her staff to fetch a set of her own clothes, acting like this is just a normal Tuesday. The servants, clearly knowing better than to question their boss, immediately obey. Yasmin tells Riley to chill out, claiming she was just checking her waist size like some kind of high-end tailor. Yasmin pulls out the ultimate weapon by putting on an innocent chibai face to disarm her captive. She offers a fake-looking apology for making things weird, but the damage is already done. Riley's brain is basically a battlefield where her inner angel and devil are duking it out over whether Yasmin is a saint or a total snake. Riley tries to play it cool, telling the noblewoman she wasn't actually mad or anything. Just then, a servant returns to announce that the clothes have arrived. Yasmin takes the blue dress and prepares to play stylist, confident that her eye for fashion is flawless. She notes that her estimate was spot on and the dress will be a perfect fit. She practically glides over to help Riley into the outfit, making the atmosphere thick enough to cut with a knife. Riley finally works up the courage to ask the million-dollar question. Why exactly did Yasmin save her from the dungeon? Yasmin puts on her best saint persona, claiming she couldn't bear to see someone as kind-hearted as Riley rot in a cell. Riley is genuinely confused, wondering when she ever gave off kind-hearted vibes while trying to rob the place. Yasmin continues the manipulation, insisting that a person's instinctual reactions don't lie. She tells Riley that she knows stealing wasn't her true intention. According to Yasmin, Riley has a much brighter path ahead that shouldn't be thrown away over a bit of silverware. Internally, Riley is side-eyeing the situation hard, wondering if this is really what the noblewoman thinks. Meanwhile, Yasmin's actual thoughts are 100% focused on the fact that Riley's special ability must come from that paintbrush. She stands there looking regal, but she's basically a shark circling its prey. To get to the bottom of everything, Yasmin is determined to find a way to make that ability hers. Riley, oblivious to the predatory vibes, tells Lady Yasmin she really appreciates the kindness. Riley drops the humble thief act for a second, looking dead serious. She grips her new dress, admitting she doesn't feel a single ounce of shame for what she did. To her, if the money from that silverware helps even one person in the slums survive another day, she'd be incredibly proud of it. She stands tall, wall, defending her choices with a fire in her eyes. Riley believes that for those poor souls, living in disgrace is far more valuable than starving to death with honor. Under the full moon, the Siren estate looks like a fortress of secrets. Inside, the silhouettes of the two women are visible through the curtains as the power dynamic shifts. Yasmin simply smiles, conceding that perhaps Riley is right. Suddenly, Riley winces and clutches her chest in pain. Yasmin is on her in a heartbeat, asking what's wrong. Riley admits she accidentally bumped her whip wound while moving. Yasmin takes charge, insisting on helping her bandage the injury. She praises Riley, noting that as expected of an artist, she has such a delicate touch. As she gets close, the tension is off the charts. Riley watches her, feeling a mix of gratitude and extreme suspicion. Yasmin's hand drifts suspiciously close to Riley's tool pouch. She's clearly trying to get a better look at Riley's gear while she's distracted. Riley catches the vibe and asks what the lady is doing. She pulls back slightly, her hand hovering over her brushes as she eyes the noble woman. The two lock eyes, and it's a total standoff. Yasmin just gives her a predatory smile and tells her to relax. She plays it off, saying Riley won't be able to change into the dress if she doesn't take off her things. Riley isn't buying the helpful act and stands her ground. Internally, she scoffs. I can do it myself, thanks. As she secures her pouch, Riley wonders if she's just overthinking things or if Yasmin is actually a creep. To change the subject, Yasmin mentions she just thought of a wonderful place she wants to check out with Riley. She leans in close, practically whispering in Riley's ear. Internally, Yasmin is plotting if her plan is to succeed, she has to Riley stay. Riley is naturally curious about what kind of place they're going to. Yasmin keeps it mysterious, promising it's a secret that Riley will absolutely love. They arrive at a massive, sun-drenched room. Yasmin welcomes her to her private art studio, and Riley is immediately floored. Riley's eyes are sparkling as she looks around the room. She's losing it over the sheer amount of paintbrushes, especially the one that literally has diamonds on it. The variety of paints is enough to make any artist short-circuit. Riley is basically in heaven, and Yasmin knows she's successfully baited the hook. Yasmin admits she doesn't paint much herself, but loves collecting other people's artwork. She asks Riley to leave behind a masterpiece for her collection. Riley is blindsided by the request. Internally, she's thinking, I'm just a wandering artist, not some big shot. She tries to downplay her skills, looking totally nervous. Yasmin doubles down, offering to be Riley's personal model. Riley realizes she's trapped and finally caves. Internally, she screams about her inability to ever say no to this woman. Riley gets to work, sketching away while Yasmin strikes a pose. Yasmin stares at her with an intensity that is honestly kind of terrifying. The atmosphere is filled with the scent of flowers and hidden motives. Riley finally breaks the silence, calling out to Lady Yasmin. She asks Yasmin to please look somewhere else, because the intense staring is making her blush. Yasmin just tilts her head, asking if Riley doesn't being looked at. Riley stammers, trying to explain herself. She admits that she just gets distracted by the noblewoman's gaze. Yasmin laughs it off, saying all artists have their quirks. Internally, Riley retorts, your quirks are definitely way weirder, buddy. Yasmin pivots the conversation, asking if Riley has ever considered going to school to refine her skills. Riley is stunned by the suggestion. She looks down, the reality of her penniless life hitting her. Internally, she scoffs. I can barely keep my stomach full, how could I ever afford school? Yasmin then drops the bomb. What if she were willing to sponsor Riley? Riley's jaw hits the floor. Yasmin explains that Riley is incredibly talented and it would be a shame to let that go to waste. She offers to get her into the Surround Girls Academy, promising top-notch guidance from the best painters in the city. Yasmin claims Riley will gain fame and fortune to help the people in the slums. She tells Riley to stay and attend the academy with her. She reaches out a hand, looking like a literal savior. Riley, she says, waiting for the answer. Riley's brain is in a tailspin because the offer is really tempting. She looks at the hand, weighing her options, but then she imagines herself surrounded by the snobby, powerful elite of the academy. She worries that if she starts acting like them, she won't even be herself anymore. She remembers her father's words about the divine paintbrush, that only a truly free spirit can master its power. He told her to follow her heart so the gods would smile on her. She remembers holding his hand as he called her name one last time. Riley snaps back to reality, looking troubled. She gasps and takes a step back, breaking the tension. Yasmin notes that Riley still hasn't given her an answer. Riley closes her eyes, making her final decision. Lady Yasmin, she begins. She looks down, looking genuinely pained but resolute. She finally says it, I'm sorry, but I can't accept your offer. Yasmin's face goes blank. She's completely blindsided. Internally, Yasmin's ego is taking a massive hit as she realizes she just got rejected in 4K. Yasmin takes the L with surprising grace, claiming she'll respect Riley's choice, even if it means they can't be classmates. She keeps up the act, looking all soft and disappointed as Riley stands there feeling guilty. Moving in closer, Yasmin literally gets in her personal space to seal the deal. She gently cups Riley's face, looking deep into her eyes with a predatory sweetness. She asks if they're still friends, pulling the ultimate guilt trip. Riley is completely short-circuiting, blushing hard because this noble girl is way too close for comfort. Internally, she's screaming, back up, lady, I need 5 feet of social distancing. The atmosphere is thick enough to cut with a knife, filled with fake flowers and sparkles. A servant suddenly interrupts the vibe, announcing that they have brought the guests. In a split second, Yasmin's face goes from bestie to ice queen. her gaze turning absolutely chilling. She quickly excuses herself, claiming she has some urgent business to attend to. She tells Riley to make herself at home with the art supplies and promises they'll do dinner later. As the door shuts, Riley is left standing there, finally able to breathe. She sighs in relief, thinking Yasmin is actually a sweetheart and that she's just being weirdly paranoid. Riley decides to lock in and finish the portrait she promised as a thank you. Riley starts sketching, her hand moving across the canvas with professional precision. She focuses on the details, trying to get the lines of Yasmin's hair just right. But when she looks at the face, something is totally off. It's a total artist's block, because even though she knows what Yasmin looks like, she can't capture the vibe on paper. She stares at the blank face, feeling like her brain is lagging. She closes her eyes, trying to visualize that perfect, gentle smile. The image in her head is flawless, the picture of a saintly noble woman. But the brush just won't cooperate, leaving the canvas looking lifeless. Frustrated, she wonders if the magical brush is broken or if she's just lost her touch. Since the portrait is a fail, Riley decides to use her cheat code and swirls the brush in the air. With a flash of magic, a gorgeous bouquet of yellow flowers appears out of thin air. She's exhausted from mana drain, looking like she's about to pass out. She figures her observation skills just aren't high enough yet to paint a person's soul. She wonders what Yasmin's true inner self actually looks like, completely unaware she's about to find out. Clutching the flowers, she decides to go find Yasmin and give her the gift. The sun sets, and the estate turns into a scene straight out of a horror movie. Riley wanders the dark balconies, hoping to surprise her friend with the bouquet. She thinks it'll be a nice gesture to smooth over the awkwardness from earlier. She's all smiles, looking like the protagonist of a rom-com. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream rips through the air. Riley freezes, her heart dropping into her stomach. She peeks over the edge and sees a servant begging for his life in the courtyard. Yasmin is standing over him, holding a whip and looking like a literal demon. She tells the guy to stay there forever and serve as fertilizer for her garden. The noble girl is cold-blooded, looking down at the man with zero empathy. The servant is sobbing, begging for mercy that clearly isn't coming. Yasmin drops a few gold coins on the bleeding man, treating his life like it's worth pocket change. She leans and closes the same way she did with Riley, but this time it's pure menace. She steps on the coins right in front of his face to assert dominance. Her hand is stained with blood, but she doesn't even blink. She warns him that if he breathes a single word about tonight, he's finished. The guy is shaking so hard he can barely speak, promising to take the secret to his grave. He thanks her for sparing him, which is some serious Stockholm Syndrome behavior. Up on the balcony, Riley is losing it, backing away in total shock. She can't believe the girl who was just offering her a scholarship is a literal psychopath. She flashes back to the gentle Yasmin who asked if she was okay. Then she looks at the monster below, calling people insubordinate trash. Riley is shaking, realizing she's been playing house with a viper. Internally, she's panicking. How is this the same person? I've been caught in a death trap. Riley tries to make a break for it, but she accidentally makes a noise. Yasmin's head snaps up instantly, her predatory instincts on high alert. Riley hides behind a pillar, covering her mouth and praying she's invisible. It's a high-stakes game of hide and seek where the loser gets turned into fertilizer. Yasmin walks over to the spot where Riley was and finds the dropped bouquet. She picks up a flower, realizing her little friend was watching the whole show. She starts playing with the petals, her magic flaring up around her fingers. Her eyes are wide and manic, a total departure from her pretty girl persona. She lets out a dark chuckle, realizing she doesn't have to pretend anymore. Cut to dinner, and the atmosphere is more awkward than a family reunion with an ex. Riley is sitting there trembling, her hands shaking so much she can barely hold her fork. Yasmin, on the other hand, is acting like she didn't just whip a man into the dirt. Riley stammers that the food is good, but she's clearly about to throw up. Internally, she's screaming, "How are you acting so normal right now? You're literally insane." Yasmin leans in, noticing Riley isn't eating her stick. She personally cuts a piece of meat and offers it to Riley with a terrifyingly sweet smile. Riley stares at the fork, feeling like she's being fed poison. She decides she's had enough and needs to get out of this house immediately. She stands up abruptly, claiming she just remembered an urgent task. She tries to bolt, looking like she's running for her life, but Yasmin drops the act completely, asking if she saw what happened earlier. Riley turns back, her face pale and filled with pure terror. Her hands are shaking uncontrollably as she realizes she's officially caught in 4K. Yasmin is done playing nice and tries to gaslight Riley by claiming that beating up her staff was actually a gift to make her happy. Riley isn't falling for the fake noble act and stands her ground with a look of pure disgust. She calls Yasmin a straight-up monster who gets a kick out of humiliating everyone around her. Yasmin's expression goes ice cold as her mask finally slips. She decides to be blunt, admitting she wants the power of that paintbrush and needs Riley to become her personal tool. Riley just laughs in her face, internally thinking, is this lady for real right now? Riley isn't going down without a fight and reaches for a hidden weapon. In a flash, she draws it, hoping to end this nightmare right here. She screams that she'll never be a lapdog for some trashy noble. As she lunges forward, it's clear she's completely outmatched. Yasmin doesn't even blink, looking bored as the blade nears her throat. She sighs about how much of a hassle it is when people don't just stay good girls. Riley is completely blindsided by what happens next. Yasmin effortlessly catches her wrist, stopping the attack with zero effort. With a quick move, Yasmin slams Riley against the wall. She disarms her like it's a Sunday stroll. Riley is pinned, unable to move as her weapon is knocked away. Yasmin leans in close, her eyes filled with predatory glee. She asks if Riley really thought she had the right to refuse a direct order. Riley can only grit her teeth in frustration. She tries to shove the noblewoman off, screaming for her to get away. Yasmin just mocks her, pointing out that her punches are way too slow. She pins Riley's arms above her head, completely dominating the situation. Internally, Yasmin is probably laughing at how weak this magical artist really is. She asks if Riley is surprised by the gap in their strength. As she leans into Riley's ear, the atmosphere gets even heavier. Yasmin drops a massive flex, revealing she actually scored higher in combat than she ever did in piano. Riley demands her brush back, knowing the noble can't even use it. But Yasmin is already holding it, looking down at her captive with a smug grin. Riley struggles against the guards who suddenly appear to grab her. Yasmin makes it clear that she doesn't want the object. She wants Riley herself. She offers one last chance to serve, but Riley spits back a no. She tells Yasmin to go straight to hell. Yasmin's eyes go dark. The game's officially over. She orders her guards to drag Riley to the dungeon immediately. Riley is hauled away, screaming that Yasmin is a lying monster. Riley is thrown into a dark, damp cell left to rot on the straw. Shaking and broken, she wonders if this is where her story ends. The isolation starts getting to her, making her hallucinate. She sees her parents reaching out to her in the darkness. She calls out to them, her heart breaking. Tears stream down her face as she tries to reach for the vision, but they start to fade away into golden dust. She begs them not to leave her alone in this hellhole. Internally, she wonders if death is the only way she'll ever see them again. She looks absolutely wrecked, the weight of her situation finally crushing her spirit. A memory of her father behind bars flashes through her mind. He tells her that no matter what happens, she has to survive and not seek revenge. The word survive echoes in her head like a broken record. She wakes up from the nightmare with a silent scream. 3 days later, the sound of a key turning in the lock breaks the silence. A guard bows as Yasmin enters the cell, looking as pristine as ever. She looks down at the starving Riley and notes it's been 3 days. Yasmin offers the final choice: work for her or literally starve to death in this hole. She wears a chillingly sweet smile while threatening Riley's life. Riley is trembling on the floor, her spirit nearly extinguished. Internally, she's cursing every god in existence. Broken by hunger and the will to live, Riley finally whispers that she's willing to serve. She looks like a shell of her former self. Yasmin is pleased, stroking Riley's chin like she's a stray kitten. She tells Riley she made the right choice and produces a contract. Riley stares at the document sliding across the floor. As she reads the terms, her eyes nearly pop out of her head. Her hands shake as she realizes what she's looking at. This isn't a job offer, it's a full-blown contract. Internally, she's screaming that this psychotic monster has gone way too far. The terms include unconditional obedience and even rights to her body. Yasmin asks what's wrong, enjoying every second of Riley's agony. She asks if Riley has changed her mind about leaving the dungeon. Riley remembers father's face one last time. His final command to survive ripples through her mind. She takes a deep breath, steeling her resolve. She tells Yasmin she'll sign the damn. In a move of pure desperation, she bites her finger to use her own blood. She signs her name, sealing her fate for the foreseeable future. Internally, she vows that as long as she survives, she will make Yasmin pay for every single bit of this. Time passes, and Riley is being fitted into a new uniform by other maids. The outfit is insanely tight, making it hard for her to even breathe. She tries to adjust the stiff collar, looking extremely uncomfortable. When Yasmin enters the room, Riley freezes up immediately. Yasmin looks her over with a critical eye. Riley is fuming, heading every second of this forced makeover. Yasmin just smirks, clearly loving her new toy. She reminds Riley that she's now a guest student and a personal maid, and her vulgar behavior is an embarrassment. Riley can only grit her teeth and force out a yes. She has to stand there and let them finish her hair. Internally, she's practicing how to not lose her mind while Yasmin giggles at her. Yasmin tells her she may finally stand up. Riley lets out a sigh of relief, thinking the ordeal is over, but her legs give out from the exhaustion and the tight dress, causing her to faceplant. Yasmin mocks her, saying her grand bow was actually quite perfect. She pats the blushing, humiliated Riley on the head. Riley is internally screaming, realizing her life is about to become a living nightmare. Yasmin starts off the day by promising to hook Riley up with the best art teachers money can buy. But there's a catch. She has to be a good little girl. This behave condition is basically Yasmin's way of saying, don't make me regret keeping you alive, while the noblewoman sips her tea with peak, main character energy. She's clearly enjoying her new position of power. Riley, however, is busy speedrunning a feast, because food is the only thing that matters right now. She's on high alert, guarding her plate like a hungry wolf. Internally, she hissed, touch my food and you'll lose a finger, noble or not. Yasmin just watches the chaotic eating, telling her to slow down so she doesn't choke. Riley responds with a classic huff, clearly not over the whole slavery thing yet. With the meal finished, it's time to move out. The duo boards a fancy carriage, heading toward their new life at the academy. For a second, the fresh air makes Riley feel like she's actually free. But one look at Yasmin's cold, unreadable face is enough to bring her back to reality. As the carriage rolls through the scenic route, things get a little awkward. Riley can feel her captor getting closer. Suddenly, Yasmin decides Riley's shoulder is the perfect pillow and passes out. Internally, Riley screamed, "Are you kidding me?" Of all the times to take a nap, she's stuck sitting there completely frozen. She looks down at the sleeping noblewoman, feeling a mix of confusion and pure annoyance. Even in her sleep, Yasmin looks like a literal angel, which is a total scam. Riley eventually gives in, letting the girl rest against her. She stares out the window, wondering how her life turned into a high-stakes babysitting gig. When Yasmin finally wakes up, she's refreshed, while Riley's shoulder is basically paralyzed. They arrive at the academy, and Yasmin immediately starts pointing out things for Riley to handle. Riley is caught off guard, wondering if she's actually expected to do manual labor. Yasmin just gives her her a smug grin, clearly enjoying the role reversal. She calls Riley her little maid, and the disrespect is off the charts. Riley is left fuming in the background, hauling luggage like a common pack mule. Things only get worse when Riley gets lost in the massive, maze-like corridors. She wanders through the Gothic halls, trying to find the auditorium. Eventually, she finds herself in a grand hall where a morning prayer is being held. The atmosphere is holy and serene, a total contrast to the violence she experienced 3 days ago. She spots a crowd of students gathered for the ceremony. Right at the center is Yasmin, looking like the most devout person on the planet. She's praying for glory and grace, playing the part of the perfect noblewoman to a T. Riley is absolutely blindsided by the gap between this holy Yasmin and the sadistic woman who forced her into a blood contract. Yasmin senses her presence and turns around, her facade never wavering. She calls Riley out for being late with a chillingly sweet smile. Internally, Riley scoffed. This girl deserves an Oscar for this performance. Later, Riley tries to focus on her art while sitting by a window. She's used to doing quick sketches every day to keep her skills sharp. But when she tries to draw Yasmin's face, she hits a wall. No matter how hard she tries, the features just won't come together on the paper. Suddenly, a group of mean girls enters the room, led by Nara, the number 2 honor student. Nara is looking for Yasmin, but she's more than happy to settle for bullying the new girl. She spots Riley sitting in Yasmin's usual spot and decides to make a scene. Nara puts on a fake nice act, asking which family Riley belongs to. Riley looks up, sensing the incoming drama. Nara and her clique loom over her, demanding answers. Internally, Riley groaned. I didn't even do anything and the mean girl trope is already starting. Riley honestly admits she's a commoner with no noble background. The reaction is immediate. The girls look like they've just seen a glitch in the Matrix. They burst out laughing, mocking the school for letting trash like her in. Nara tells her to move aside because she doesn't deserve to sit in such a prestigious spot. They accuse her of shamelessly trying to get close to Lady Yasmin. Riley is genuinely confused since she just picked a random seat. She decides it's not worth the headache and tries to leave, but the bullies aren't done yet and block her path. They snatch her drawing board, eager to see what dirty thoughts she's been sketching. Riley demands it back, but she's outnumbered. They look at the unfinished sketch and start mocking her even harder. Riley's temper is reaching its limit. She tries to grab her board back, but Nara's lackey pushes her down. The girls call her a peasant, making sure she knows her place. Then they do the unthinkable and start ripping her drawings to shreds. They laugh while tossing the pieces like confetti. Riley sits on the floor, surrounded by her ruined work, looking absolutely devastated. Nara watches the entire show with a smug, satisfied look. One of the girls grabs Riley by the hair, ready to escalate the violence. They're about to teach her a lesson when a cold voice cuts through the room. Stop. Nara's expression shifts instantly as she realizes who just walked in. It's Yasmin, and she looks like she's ready to send someone to the Shadow Realm. The bullies are shaking in their boots as they realize they just messed with the wrong person's property. Yasmin kneels down, checking on Riley with a terrifyingly calm demeanor. She asks the bullies if her study companion did something wrong. The room goes dead silent as the girls realize Riley is protected by the most powerful student in school. They start sweating, realizing they've massively overstepped. They immediately pivot, claiming they were just playing around with the new student. Nara joins in the fake fest, putting on her best friendly student mask. She welcomes Riley to the school, pretending the last 5 minutes of bullying never happened. Riley is disgusted by the 180-degree turn. Nara tries to play it off with a smile, but the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Yasmin doesn't buy the act for a second, giving them a look that says, I know where you sleep. Nara eventually asks Yasmin if they can talk in private. They head out to a balcony, leaving the chaos behind. Nara drops the act immediately, asking if Yasmin is playing some kind of game. Yasmin just shrugs, acting like she was just being a helpful senior. Nara isn't buying it, accusing Yasmin of trying to win Riley's loyalty through a hero complex. She explains the strategy. Let the girl get isolated and helpless, then appear as the savior to buy her loyalty. Nara leans in, mocking the idea of putting so much effort into a low-status commoner. She thinks Riley is just a useless tool. Yasmin remains silent, letting Nara dig her own grave. Finally, she gives Nara a look so chilling it practically freezes the air. Nara is visibly shaken, realizing she might have pushed too far. As Yasmin walks away, Nara realizes there's definitely more to this Riley girl than meets the eye. Yasmin starts the morning by choosing violence, reminding Nara that being stuck in second place must really sting. Nara is visibly shook by the call-out, while Yasmin just stands there looking like a whole aesthetic. Nara tries to play it cool with a humph, but her ego is clearly bruised. They decide to talk terms in the shadows, looking like two final bosses negotiating a peace treaty. Nara demands that Yasmin stays out of her lane and keeps her hands off the school's blessing spot. The tension is thick enough to cut with a spirit sword as they stare each other down. Suddenly, Nara goes full chibi mode, looking stressed out of her mind. But the mood flips when Yasmin offers a deal. She'll let Nara take first place this year, sending Nara into a total victory lap. Yasmin heads off to class, leaving Nara behind to process the win. Internally, Nara realizes she's being played and sees that Yasmin never took her seriously. She vows to find a way to crush Yasmin sooner or later. To Nara, Riley looks like the perfect weak point to exploit in this high-stakes mean girl war. Meanwhile, Yasmin stands alone on a balcony, looking like the loneliest person in the world. She contemplates her own isolation. Internally, she wondered if anyone would ever actually see past her noble mask. Over in the classroom, the gossip mill is working overtime as students whisper about the new girl's relationship with Lady Yasmin. Yasmin. Riley is already regretting her life choices, feeling the weight of 100 judgmental stares. She feels less like a student and more like Yasmin's literal property at this point. Internally, she panicked. Is this whole social nightmare just part of her plan? Riley eventually gives up on life, face-planting onto her desk to escape the clique wars. When the bell rings, everyone scrambles to their seats. Nara strolls in humming, clearly still riding the high from her deal with Yasmin. She gives Riley a look that says, "Good luck, you're gonna need it." Nara's cryptic "lucky or unlucky" comment leaves Riley completely blindsided. Riley's brain is officially short-circuiting from all the mixed signals. Then the main attraction arrives as Yasmin glides into the room. She looks cold, untouchable, and incredibly expensive. Every eye in the room is glued to her as she approaches the desks. To everyone's shock and Riley's horror, Yasmin decides to pull up a chair right next to her. Yasmin welcomes her seatmate with a smile that's probably 50% sweetness and 50% poison. She's definitely looking forward to making Riley's life interesting. Internally, Riley felt like a corner cat being toyed with by a relentless predator. By the time school lets out, Riley is a walking zombie, just glad the day is over. But the grind never stops because their dorm room has been empty for months and is unlivable. Yasmin points out the thick layer of dust, and Riley mistakenly thinks they're going to clean it together. Nope. Yasmin pulls a total noble move and dumps the entire workload on Riley. Riley spends the next few hours scrubbing floors and doing laundry like she's in a Cinderella remake. When Riley tries to protest, Yasmin just flashes the contract she signed, effectively silencing her. Exhausted and covered in grime, Riley finally finishes, only for Yasmin to demand hot water for a bath. Yasmin is already lounging on the bed, looking like she hasn't lifted a finger all day. Riley is absolutely fuming, asking if the demands will ever stop. Yasmin just waves the contract again, and Riley's anger is instantly extinguished by the power of legal binding. Cut to the bathroom, where Riley is stuck serving as a bath attendant. She's freshly boiled the water and is low-key hoping it's scalding enough to give Yasmin a reality check. But Yasmin isn't done. She orders Riley to come over and give her a massage. Riley is stunned, wondering if personal masseuse was also in the fine print. She reluctantly starts the massage, trying to keep her cool. Internally, she couldn't help but notice how soft Yasmin's skin was, which only made her blush harder. Yasmin looks completely relaxed, soaking in the attention. Eventually, she decides she's had enough. Riley thinks she's finally free to leave. But as she turns to go, the atmosphere shifts. Yasmin grabs Riley's hand and drops a bombshell. "Take off your clothes and come soak with me." Riley's face turns into a literal tomato as she tries to process the invite. She stammers that it's probably a terrible idea. She tries to back away, looking like she wants the ground to swallow her whole. Yasmin leans in, her gaze becoming dangerously pulled. She asks if Riley is rejecting her again. Riley panics, explaining she's just not used to communal bathing. Yasmin's expression softens into something almost vulnerable. Then she pulls the ultimate guilt trip, suggesting Riley must be disgusted by her. Riley goes into full damage control, insisting that's not it at all. Suddenly, Yasmin's turns ice cold. She tells Riley to get in the tub because she won't have a filthy thing staying in the same room. Riley is terrified by the mood swing and hops in immediately, internally screaming about how moody nobles are. Now they're both in the tub and the awkwardness is off the charts. Yasmin teases her for hiding away and being scared. Riley lies through her teeth, claiming she's totally fine. Yasmin just gives a knowing smirk. She leans in close, closing the distance until their faces are inches apart. Riley is completely frozen, her heart doing 200 BPM. Internally, she was screaming for help because she could see way too much of Yasmin right now. The tension peaks as Yasmin gets even closer. Riley is so stressed she actually starts hiccuping. It looks like a confession or a kiss is coming. Yasmin whispers, "Didn't you say you weren't scared?" But then, the spell is broken. Riley realizes Yasmin was just messing with her. Yasmin plays innocent, asking what she even did wrong. She claims she just leaned over to grab something. She casually picks up a towel from the edge of the tub. Riley is livid, realizing she's been trolled in 4K by this awful woman yet again. As they settle down, Yasmin asks how the first day of school actually went. Riley looks at her, still feeling the heat in her cheeks. She looks down, trying to find the words. Internally, she sighed. Besides being bullied by nobles and teased by my master, it was just a typical Tuesday. While relaxing in the bath, Yasmin drops a massive warning. Stay far away from Nara because that girl has a temper that will make Riley's life a living hell. If she accidentally crosses her, the suffering will be next level. Riley's eyes go wide, immediately wondering if Nara and Yasmin are actually sworn enemies. Internally, she's already plotting, thinking that any enemy of Yasmin's must be her potential bestie. Yasmin plays it cool, claiming they aren't exactly enemies, but they definitely aren't grab-a-coffee friends either. It turns out Nara hails from the Lamonts, the second biggest noble family in the city, so she's got the status to back up her attitude. Apparently, Nara has viewed Yasmin as her imaginary rival since they were toddlers, trying to outdo her in literally everything. Yasmin claims she doesn't actually hate the girl, even if Nara is an absolute chore to deal with. To the Ice Queen, Nara is just a spoiled little brat who doesn't know her place. Riley internally screaming, thinking that Yasmin calling someone else spoiled, while acting like a high and mighty princess, is the height of irony. Yasmin notices her servant is zoning out and decides to blow some bubbles her way to snap her back to reality. Riley flinches, asking what the heck she's doing now. Yasmin tells her to stop spacing out and finish washing so they can finally get some sleep. As Yasmin steps out of the tub, Riley is left fuming. She concludes that Yasmin is officially the most obnoxious person on the planet. Later that night, the two are settled in, but the tension is still thick enough to cut with a knife. Riley tells herself to just shut her eyes and go to sleep, but her brain won't stop running. She catches a glimpse of Yasmin's back, realizing the woman is actually quite vulnerable in her sleep. Riley's face flushes as she stares, feeling a bit conflicted. She tries to pivot back to her escape plan, wondering if getting on Nara's good side could be her fast-track ticket out of Yasmin's control. But the fear of getting caught and being whipped keeps her pinned to the bed. Under the pale moonlight, the mansion feels more like a prison than ever. Riley realizes she's completely wide awake and can't sleep at all. Suddenly, she hears a faint, pathetic sound coming from the other side of the room. She looks over and wonders if the untouchable Lady Yasmin is actually crying. The soft whimpering continues as Yasmin tosses and turns under the covers. It really sounds like she's in pain, prompting Riley to ask what's wrong. She crawls over to check on her master, seeing her looking totally distressed. Yasmin is mumbling something, clearly trapped in a heavy dream. Riley can't believe her eyes. A heartless woman like this is actually shedding tears and having a nightmare. She starts shaking Yasmin's shoulder, desperately trying to wake her up. Yasmin's face is covered in sweat and tears as she continues to moan in her sleep. Inside the nightmare, a young, happy girl named Lily appears in a field of flowers. An older version of Yasmin welcomes her with open arms. Yasmin asks Lily to sing her a lullaby, and the girl happily agrees. The song is beautiful, speaking of clear springs and murmuring waters in a deep valley. Yasmin rests her head in Lily's lap, looking more peaceful than she ever has in real life. But the lyrics turn dark, mentioning lost love and the surge of endless waters. Yasmin's eyes snap open in the dream, sensing something is horribly wrong. She calls out for Lily, but the girl is suddenly gone. Yasmin finds herself alone on a massive, empty sofa in a cold room. Panic sets in as she sprints through the palace halls, screaming for Lily. She's breathless and terrified, searching every corner for her missing companion. She pauses for a second, her heart hammering against her ribs. She whispers Lily's name one more time, hoping for an answer. Instead, she finds herself staring into a literal inferno as the palace begins to burn. She screams for it to stop, reaching out toward a figure in the flames. She begs for help as the world around her collapses. The figure in the fire just watches as Yasmin is consumed by the heat. She tries to run, but her feet feel like lead. She demands to know why she's being left behind in the ash. With one final, desperate cry for help, the nightmare reaches its peak. Yasmin's eyes go wide with terror as she feels hands on her face. She lets out a blood-curdling scream that echoes through the room. She bolts upright, gasping for air and clutching her head in total shock. Riley is standing right there, relieved that she finally woke up because she thought the woman was a goner. She asks if Yasmin had a bad dream, trying to be helpful. Seeing her master crying so hard, Riley offers a handkerchief to dry her face. But Yasmin's expression instantly turns cold as she asks if Riley heard her talking in her sleep. The vibe shift is instant and terrifying, making Riley realize she's in a caught in 4K situation. Internally, she knows that if she says one wrong word, Yasmin might actually end her right then and there. Riley stammers out a lie, claiming she didn't hear a single word and that Yasmin was just crying the whole time. Yasmin stares her down with those piercing green eyes, questioning if that's really the truth. Riley doubles down, swearing she didn't hear a thing while backing away slowly. She raises her hands in a defensive gesture, trying to look as innocent as possible. But Yasmin isn't done. She suddenly grabs Riley by the collar. She slams the poor girl down onto the bed with terrifying strength. Reaching under her pillow, Yasmin pulls out a concealed dagger. She presses the blade right against Riley's throat, her eyes filled with a murderous glint. Riley is absolutely short-circuiting, asking if she's gone completely crazy. Internally, she scoffed. Even a crazy person wouldn't hide a dagger under their pillow. Yasmin leans in close, threatening that if Riley breathes a single word about the nightmare or anything that happened tonight, she's finished. The look in Yasmin's eyes says she isn't bluffing. Riley quickly promises she won't say a thing, her voice trembling. She swears on her life, terrified of the sharp steel against her skin. Yasmin warns her that she better keep her word or the consequences will be fatal. Riley's hand trembles as she tries to process the near-death experience. Yasmin finally pulls the knife away, giving one last chilling look. Yasmin tells her to stop lingering in her bed and go back to sleep like a good little servant. Riley exhales a massive sigh of relief, thinking she really dodged a bullet there. Yasmin literally tosses her back toward her own sleeping spot. As the room goes quiet again, the tension remains. Riley huddles under her blanket, her heart still racing. Yasmin lies back down, cursing herself for losing control and letting a servant see her weakness. She realizes she hasn't had that specific nightmare in a long time, but she feels she needs to keep Riley close to rest easy. She clutches a necklace, looking thoughtful and haunted. She wonders if Riley is the cause of this, noting how her necklace reacts to Riley's strange paintbrush. Could this girl be the key to solving the mystery of Lily? Yasmin stares at the ceiling, lost in her own dark thoughts. Meanwhile, Riley is holding her breath, glad she stuck to her lie. She remembers the desperate way Yasmin looked while sleeping. Those words, "Don't leave me," are still ringing in her ears. Riley realizes that whoever was in that dream must be someone incredibly special to a monster like Yasmin. Her brain goes into overdrive, wondering if it could have been a secret lover. She lies there with her eyes wide open, realizing she's stumbled into a plot way deeper than she expected. Riley is trying to gaslight herself into not caring about her demon master's personal life. She's convinced that only a total psycho would fall for someone as twisted as Yasmin anyway. Her only goal is to recover her magic paintbrush and escape being a noble's lapdog as fast as possible. Eventually, she stops overthinking and drifts off into a much-needed snooze. The next morning, the school bells are ringing for theology class. where Sister Laura is preaching about faith being the armor of the soul. The class is supposed to draw wisdom from the scriptures, but Riley is basically a zombie. Internally, she's fighting for her life, thinking, if I close my eyes for 1 second, it's game over. Even Nara looks concerned while Riley struggles to stay upright next to her. Instead of taking notes on the lecture, Riley is busy doodling stick figures in her notebook. Nara catches her in 4K, looking absolutely majestic while Riley slacks off. Seeing the struggle, Nara kindly offers to help Riley with anything she doesn't understand. Finally, it's time for the one class Riley actually looks forward to: art. She's ready to become the next Picasso, especially since the academy provides everything for free. Internally, she's hyped, thinking, free canvases and free paint? I could stay here forever. She's grinning like a maniac at the prospect of finally painting again. But then Yasmin shows up to ruin the vibe, ordering Riley to clean up her mess. Riley gets stuck holding a bucket of dirty brushes like a glorified maid. She can only sigh and accept her fate as Yasmin's personal janitor. While hauling the heavy bucket, Riley stops dead in her tracks. Something about a specific painting on the wall is calling to her soul. It depicts a glowing, faceless figure that looks almost divine. Below it, a girl with long dark hair is kneeling in the shadows, creating a heavy atmosphere. Riley is so stunned by the piece that she nearly drops her bucket. She notices the brushstrokes aren't just art, they're filled with frantic raw emotion. Forgetting her chores, she whips out a notebook to analyze the peculiar piece. Suddenly, a mysterious woman stands behind her, asking if she likes the painting. This is Camille, the academy's resident painting teacher. She's casually holding a human skull, which is a major red flag for any normal person. Riley is weirded out, but tries to keep it professional. Camille looms over her, waiting for a real answer with a creepy intensity. She presses Riley, wanting to know what she truly sees in the work. Riley explains that while the average person sees a girl repenting, that's just a distraction the artist wants people to see. Riley senses something much darker remains unseen. She's convinced that beneath the large patch of shadow, something is hidden, maybe a pattern or even a person, but the artist intentionally covered it all up with thick black paint. Riley concludes that the true theme isn't about seeking forgiveness at all. Internally, she's certain of her theory. She looks Camille dead in the eye and declares the true theme is secrets. Camille is stunned into silence, but then Yasmin starts clapping from the hallway. Yasmin loves the novel interpretation and approaches the pair with a smirk. She's looking smug as she joins the conversation. Turns out, Yasmin scouted Riley specifically to be Camille's new apprentice. Camille admits Riley is certainly impressive. Riley is completely lost, wondering who the skull-holding lady even is. Yasmin introduces her as Camille, a legendary sculptor, and the youngest teacher in academy history. And just like that, Yasmin makes Camille Riley's personal mentor. Riley's inner fangirl explodes, thinking, a private tutor? Heck yes. She promises to work her tail off for her new teacher. Nara watches from a distance, internally scoffing at Riley's total kiss-up energy. Riley is so happy she actually gives Yasmin a massive hug. It's a rare moment of genuine gratitude between the slave and the master. Yasmin is completely blindsided by the sudden physical affection. Riley tries to push her luck, asking if this means she can finally tear up her contract. But Yasmin shuts that down instantly. Then, Yasmin leans in with a devious look. She reveals that the artist who painted the piece Riley just critiqued was actually Camille herself. Riley realizes she just roasted her new teacher's work to her face and goes into full-blown clown mode. Riley flees the scene in total embarrassment, heading back to the studio. She runs away as fast as her legs can carry her to hide her shame. Camille watches her go, clearly amused by the chaos Riley leaves behind. She teases Yasmin, asking why she scared the poor girl over something so trivial. She even points out that Yasmin is totally blushing from that hug. Yasmin gets defensive, denying everything immediately. She shifts the focus back to the painting, asking if Riley was actually right about the secret. Camille just gives a cryptic smile, playing it cool. She claims that once a piece is finished, it becomes an independent entity from its creator. She insists she has no right to judge what's right or wrong. Camille puts on her best "I'm totally not hiding anything" face. Yasmin isn't buying it, warning her that she can fool others, but she shouldn't fool herself. Yasmin walks away, leaving Camille alone with her thoughts. Camille wonders if she really is just lying to herself. She looks back at the kneeling girl in the painting, lost in the mystery. After class, the sun begins to set over the academy grounds. Riley is still buzzing with energy, her brain overflowing with inspiration from the new techniques. She's desperate to start practicing everything she learned right away. Yasmin calls out to her, sounding surprisingly soft. She tells Riley that she probably needs something right about now. Yasmin reaches out and hands Riley her golden paintbrush, finally returning the one thing she cares about. Riley is basically crying tears of joy because she finally has her magic paintbrush back. Internally, she's thinking Yasmin might actually have a soul after all. She reaches out to grab her precious tool, feeling all warm and fuzzy inside. But psych! Yasmin pulls it back at the last second, leaving Riley grabbing at thin air. Chaos immediately breaks out as Riley dives for the brush like a cat chasing a laser pointer. After a ridiculous game of keep away, Riley is left fuming while Yasmin just stands there looking smug. Riley demands to know if this is all just a big joke to her. Yasmin gets serious for a second, pointing the brush at Riley's face to remind her not to use it for a prison break. She makes it crystal clear that if Riley tries to bolt from Siren City, she has 1,000 ways to drag her back. Finally, she hands the brush over, telling the frustrated artist to just take it already. Riley realizes that being friends with this girl was a total fever dream. Internally, she scoffs. The second I learn everything from Camille, I'm out of here. Yasmin watches her with a look that says she knows exactly what Riley is plotting. Then comes the catch. Yasmin is only giving the brush back if Riley does a little favor for her. Riley is already over it, telling her to just spit out the demands. Yasmin looks out toward the academy, setting the stage for some high-stakes drama. The mission is simple. Riley needs to sneak into the principal's office and steal a top-secret file. Riley's eyes nearly pop out of her head at the thought of breaking into the big boss's office. Yasmin mocks her, asking if she's too scared to get her hands dirty. Riley points out the obvious. Yasmin is literally just using her as a professional thief. Yasmin hits back with a look who's talking vibe, mentioning Riley's past career. Riley goes full defensive mode, screaming that she only did what she had to do to survive. Riley insists on getting some intel before she goes in blind. She wonders why a noble with Yasmin's status can't just ask for the file, suspecting some deep, dark secret. Yasmin gets oddly quiet, her mood shifting as she looks away. Riley presses for more info, wanting to know whose file is so important. Yasmin goes completely silent, and the tension in the air is thick enough to cut. She clenches her fist, clearly struggling with some heavy emotions. She finally admits she's looking for someone who used to live at the academy, or maybe someone who never actually left. The camera pans to the creepy academy building as the atmosphere gets chilling. Yasmin drops the bombshell. She's looking for a ghost. Riley is visibly shaken, wondering if she signed up for a horror movie instead of an art apprenticeship. She starts shaking like a leaf, terrified of the supernatural. Yasmin leans in, whispering about a terrifying legend that haunts the halls of Suran Girls Academy. Apparently, on the night of every full moon, you can hear a girl crying in the dorm hallway. It's the spirit of a girl forgotten by the gods, who doesn't even remember her own name. If you run into her, you have to call her true name and state her cause of death, or it's game over. The vision of the vengeful spirit is enough to give anyone nightmares. Yasmin sneaks up behind Riley, making her jump out of her skin. Riley trembles, asking what happens if you get the answer wrong. Yasmin leans into her ear, whispering the consequences. "You'll die," she says, causing Riley to lose absolute mind. Riley goes into full cat scare mode, screaming about ghosts while Yasmin just watches. But then Yasmin lets out a laugh, asking Riley if she actually believed that obvious bait. Yasmin pulls her into a back hug, looking way too satisfied with her prank. Riley pushes her away, absolutely fuming that she got played like a fiddle. She starts yelling at the noble, who is now doubled over laughing at the reaction. Internally, Riley is seething, thinking that even if Yasmin didn't want to tell the truth, scaring her was a low blow. Yasmin wipes a tear from her eye, admitting it might have been made up, but then she drops a cryptic line asking if a story always has to be fake. Riley is stunned by the sudden change in Yasmin's expression. She notices that while Yasmin is smiling, her eyes look incredibly sad. Yasmin acknowledges Riley's perceptiveness, but quickly snaps back into her usual persona. She pets Riley's head like a disgruntled kitten, telling her she just made the whole thing up. Riley goes back to being a ball of rage, pointing a finger and vowing never to trust her again. She's shouting that she's officially done with Yasmin's games. Yasmin gets dead serious for a split second, telling Riley to never trust anyone easily, especially her. She grabs Riley's hand, leading her away. It's time for class, and Yasmin isn't taking no for an answer. Riley walks behind her, rubbing her head and wondering how a demon like Yasmin could ever feel sad. Internally, she scoffs. The girl definitely doesn't have a heart. They arrive at social etiquette class, where it's time for waltz practice. The students are told to split into leaders and followers. Madame Randy, the etiquette teacher, is ready to start the session. She tells them to find partners before the music kicks in. Riley starts panicking because she doesn't know a single soul in this class. She looks around, feeling like the awkward new kid at the dance. Suddenly, she makes eye contact with Yasmin across the room. Riley is internally screaming no as she sees the noble approaching her with a smirk. Yasmin reminds her that a student shouldn't refuse an invitation from her master. She looks stunning and dangerous as she offers her hand. Riley has no choice but to accept the invitation. The music starts, and the whole room begins to dance. Yasmin pulls Riley close, making the poor girl let out a little eep. She tells Riley to put her hand on her shoulder and focus. They are so close Riley can feel her breath, and the tension is off the charts. Yasmin warns her that if she can't keep up, she's gonna fall flat on her face. Riley trips over her own feet, looking like a total amateur. Yasmin teases her, asking if she's ever actually danced with someone before. They spin through the ballroom, but Riley is struggling to keep her balance. Riley snaps back that her dances are wilder and Yasmin probably couldn't handle her real moves. She glares at Yasmin, determined not to be humiliated. Riley decides to take some petty revenge by trying to stomp on Yasmin's toes, but Yasmin is like a ninja, effortlessly dodging every attempt. Yasmin notices the intense style and decides to turn up the heat. She sends Riley into a massive, dizzying spin that leaves her gasping. Riley is caught in 4K as Yasmin pulls her back in with a firm grip. Yasmin whispers, asking if that was intense enough for her. The chapter ends with Riley pinned against Yasmin, blushing and completely blindsided by the noble's skill. The tension on the dance floor is high enough to short-circuit a light bulb as Yasmin refuses to let go of her favorite servant. Riley tries to squirm away, but Yasmin reminds her that walking out mid-waltz is a total etiquette fail. Internally, Riley scoffed. "Fine, if you want to play rough, let's go." She grips Yasmin's shoulder right back, and Yasmin can't help but smirk at the sudden show of backbone. Riley is convinced that while Yasmin is a terrible dance partner, she's an even worse human being. The two continue their petty bickering in the middle of the ballroom. looking like two angry cats in a standoff. Watching from the sidelines, the glasses-wearing Nara realizes this. Master and servant duo is anything but harmonious. Nara decides it's the perfect time to make a move, thinking that stealing Yasmin's toys is the ultimate power move. Later, Riley is blindsided by the news that Yasmin is actually leaving the academy for a bit. She immediately treats this like she just won the lottery. Yasmin explains she has some urgent business to handle and tells Riley to stay put and behave. Riley wonders what kind of emergency would make the Ice Queen leave in such a hurry. Internally, she was doing a full victory lap, thinking, please stay away forever. She's basically manifesting that Yasmin never show her face again. Yasmin gives her one last suspicious look before heading out. As Riley celebrates her temporary freedom, Yasmin can only sigh at how much of a handful her apprentice. A servant interrupts to let Yasmin know the carriage is ready and her father is waiting. Yasmin's mood immediately turns cold as she acknowledges the summons. With the toxic boss gone, Riley finally has a moment to breathe and looks at her magic pen. She remembers Camille's praise about her being a total prodigy. Camille's encouraging smile is the only thing keeping Riley's mental health afloat right now. Riley knows that if she runs away now, she'll lose her chance to learn from the best. She's caught in 4K between her desire for freedom and her passion for art. After some serious thinking, she decides to just vibe for the next few days. She's officially off the clock and refuses to play the role of a lowly servant while Yasmin is gone. She heads to the greenhouse to get some practice in. Riley sets up her canvas, finally finding some peace and quiet. She uses her magic brush to bring a cluster of roses to life, the colors glowing with supernatural energy. Seeing the flowers bloom under her touch makes her feel like a total boss. She wonders if her magic stats just leveled up after that performance. But the peace is ruined when Nara suddenly spawns behind her. Nara suggests that since Yasmin isn't around to gatekeep, they should do something way more interesting. Riley is immediately on guard, wondering how long this girl has been lurking. Internally, she panicked. I hope she didn't see the magic glow up I just pulled off. Riley tries to make a quick exit, offering Nara the entire greenhouse just to get away. But Nara isn't letting her off the hook that easily and insists on a chat. Riley bluntly tells her that they aren't exactly on best friend terms. Nara just laughs it off, claiming Riley is holding a major grudge. She tries to restart the conversation, acting like they're on the same team. Nara claims that being her friend comes with some serious perks. Riley puts on her best fake "I'm so honored" face, mocking the noble's ego. Then she drops the act instantly, asking if Nara really thought she'd just accept her charity. Riley walks away, calling herself a crude commoner who isn't worth Nara's time. Nara's patience hits zero real fast. She demands to know Riley's price to ditch Yasmin and become her servant instead. Nara claims she can give Riley all the money and clout she wants. She doesn't even care if Riley is useful. She just wants to make Yasmin miserable. Riley tells her to keep her toxic drama to herself and stop using people like toys. Nara warns her that sticking with Yasmin is a one-way ticket to a bad ending. As Riley tries to walk out, Nara decides to spill the ultimate tea. She reveals that Yasmin is actually an illegitimate child. Nara explains that despite her high and mighty act, Yasmin is just a pawn. Her only destiny is to be sold off in a political marriage to help her father get reelected. Riley is completely stunned by the realization. Apparently, the entire noble circle knows that Yasmin's marriage is currently being negotiated. Meanwhile, back at the estate, Yasmin is dressed to the nines but looks like she's attending her own funeral. Her father coldly tells her to perform well at the banquet and not to embarrass the family. He needs to secure the support of the Astor family to stay in power. Yasmin submissively agrees, her spirit clearly crushed. Her father mentions that the Astor's youngest son is her age, implying they'll have plenty to talk about. He towers over her, treating her like an asset rather than a daughter. He expects the alliance to go smoothly so he can keep his position. Yasmin is visibly trembling under the pressure. The father plans to finalize the marriage arrangements by the end of the year. Yasmin is hit with a wave of shock. She tries to speak up, her voice shaking. Her father gives her a look that says, don't even try it. She argues that she's working hard to qualify as a saintess instead. She's sweating and terrified, but tries to stand her ground. She insists that becoming a virgin priestess would help his re-election just as much as a marriage. Her father slams his cane down with a deafening no. He tells her to stop living in a fantasy world right now. Yasmin refuses to back down, arguing for her future. Her father shuts her down, saying there is no why to his commands. Yasmin points out she meets all the qualifications. She even has the quota for the Pantheon's blessing. She brings up her older sister, saying she's just trying to do what she did. She's desperate to prove she's just capable. The mention of the sister sends the father into a blind rage as he slams his cane again. He screams at her to never mention that name in front of him again. He looks like he's about to blow a fuse. Yasmin is frozen in fear, her eyes wide. She's completely speechless at his outburst. As he turns away, she wonders why the mention of her sister and the priestesses always makes him lose his cool. She's starting to suspect there's a much darker secret hidden here. But her father isn't done yet, reaching into a drawer. He pulls out a whip, proving that Yasmin's life at home is a literal nightmare. Yasmin's father is a straight-up villain, warning her that growing up doesn't mean she gets to act like her mysterious older sister. He doubles down on the toxic energy, claiming that any daughter defying her father is unforgivable and that she needs to learn her place. As he looms over her with a literal whip, Yasmin is forced to kneel and submit to the abuse. The man is a total sociopath, ordering her to stay silent and make sure nobody notices anything is wrong with her. He's more worried about his family's reputation being embarrassed in front of guests than his own daughter's safety. Meanwhile, back at the academy, Riley is living her best life and enjoying the rare moment of peace. It's been 2 days since Yasmin was summoned home, and Riley finds herself wondering when her chaotic master will return. She remembers Nara's arrogance, who was busy looking down on her for being a dogue for the Granville family. Riley hadn't taken that bait, telling Nara that until she learned to treat people like humans, they had nothing to talk about. Nara was left short-circuiting, unable to understand why Riley would choose Yasmin over her. Back in her room, Riley stares at the ceiling, lost in thought. Internally, she mused that compared to a total brat like Nara, Yasmin was actually the lesser of two evils. She starts to imagine the political marriage Nara mentioned and what kind of wife Yasmin would even be. She pictures Yasmin being dragged to the altar, looking like a ghost in a wedding dress. Then she shakes the thought away, telling herself it's none of her business since she plans to be long gone by then. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as her candle flame begins to flicker violently. A strange, cold wind sweeps through the room, rustling the plants. The door suddenly creaks open on its own, and the light is snuffed out completely. Riley is officially spooked, pulling the covers up and sweating bullets. She wonders why the door is open and if someone or something just walked in. She listens closely, trying to figure out if it's just the wind or a person. She remembers the creepy school legend about a weeping ghost that wanders the halls during the full moon. Panicking, she prays that whatever is out there doesn't decide to visit her. With trembling hands, she tries to strike a match to get some light back. She tells herself to stay calm and that everything will be fine once the door is locked. She manages to turn the key, feeling a temporary sense of relief. She thinks she's safe, but a dark shadow is already looming directly behind her. The figure collapses against her, whispering her name in a broken voice. Riley freezes, her heart nearly stopping as she realizes someone is touching her. She gulps, slowly turning her head to face the intruder. It's Yasmin, looking absolutely wrecked and leaning on Riley for support. Riley's inner monologue goes into a full-blown scream of terror as she realizes she wasn't alone. Yasmin quickly covers Riley's mouth, whispering for her to be quiet. She gives a weak, pained smile and asks if Riley actually missed her. Riley immediately goes into gremlin mode, yelling at Yasmin for scaring the absolute life out of her in the middle of the night. Yasmin just gazes at her with blurry, unfocused eyes. Riley continues her rant, making it clear she absolutely hates heart attack-inducing pranks. She notices Yasmin is barely holding it together and asks if she's even listening. Before she can get an answer, Yasmin's strength gives out completely. She slumps forward, losing consciousness. Riley panics, shaking her and trying to get her to wake up. Yasmin lets out a low moan of pain, her face flushed. Riley touches her and realizes she's burning up with a dangerously high fever. She struggles to get Yasmin toward the bed, deciding she needs to fetch a doctor immediately. But Yasmin grips her tightly, deliriously begging her sister not to go. She's clinging to Riley like a lifeline, her eyes filled with desperation. Riley looks down at the girl who's usually so arrogant, now reduced to a shivering mess. Yasmin keeps pleading, her voice cracking as she begs Riley not to leave her alone. She pulls Riley into a tight, suffocating hug. Riley realizes Yasmin has completely lost touch with reality. She asks the girl if she even knows who she's talking to. Yasmin looks at her with a soft, hazy expression and calls her sister again. Internally, Riley sighed. The fever has officially fried her brain. She tries to push Yasmin back onto the bed so she can go get help. Yasmin suddenly snaps out of it enough to scream that she doesn't want any doctors. She's terrified of anyone finding out her current state. Her fever is clearly getting worse, and she looks like she's on the verge of tears. She begs Riley one more time to just stay with her. Riley realizes that if the girl can still make this much of a fuss, she probably isn't going to die in the next 5 minutes. She gives in, deciding to treat Yasmin herself to keep things quiet. Yasmin celebrates the small win, telling Riley she's the best sister ever. She even catches Riley off guard with a sudden kiss on the cheek. Riley tells her to shut up and just lie down before she changes her mind. She starts prepping some cold water to try and break the fever. Riley informs her that she needs to take her dress off to properly clean her up. As the fabric slides down, Riley is completely blindsided by the sight of Yasmin's back. She stares in horror at the brutal, crisscrossing whip marks covering her skin. She realizes these wounds are heavily infected, which explains why the fever is so insane. When Riley tries to examine them, Yasmin flinches and groans in agony. Riley immediately pulls back, apologizing for the pain. Yasmin starts sobbing, clinging to Riley and complaining about how much it hurts. Riley tries to settle her down, warning her that moving around is only gonna make the wounds worse. Yasmin starts acting like a needy child, demanding water and a lullaby from her sister. Riley has to literally put a hand over the girl's mouth to keep her from waking the whole dorm. She tells her to stay quiet because it's time to get serious and disinfect those injuries. Riley is frantically digging through Yasmin's suitcase, looking for anything to disinfect those nasty whip marks. But it's hard to focus when a delirious Yasmin is acting like a clingy human backpack, demanding a piggyback ride from her sister. Internally, Riley's probably thinking, I'm a slave, not a jungle gym. Finally, her fingers brush against something promising hidden in the luggage. She pulls out a bottle of high-proof alcohol, while Yasmin cheers in the background like they're about to start a party instead of a painful medical procedure. Riley just sighs, totally done with this yay energy. She warns the noble brat that this is gonna burn like crazy, so she better brace herself. As the alcohol hits those infected wounds, Yasmin is pinned to the bed in pure agony. The sight of those raw slashes is enough to make anyone's stomach churn. Yasmin lets out a sharp gasp, the pain finally snapping her back to reality. Her eyes fly open, and for the first time tonight she's actually lucid. She realizes Riley is the one hovering over her and asks what on earth she's doing. Even though she's barely holding it together, Yasmin's pride kicks in, and she insists she can handle the wounds herself. Riley isn't having it, pushing her back down and telling her to quit being a stubborn martyr. Weakly, Yasmin finally gives in and drops a rare thanks. Riley promises to be quick, telling her to speak up if the pain gets too much. Yasmin grits her teeth and endures the stinging sensation in silence, though it's clearly torture. Eventually, the job is done and Riley is absolutely drained. She She notices Yasmin has passed out from the exhaustion and pain, calling her a total tough guy. As she stares at the sleeping noble, Riley's heart softens just a tiny bit. She tucks her in, playing the role of the world's most overqualified nurse. Internally, she scoffs, "I'm way too nice for my own good, especially since you're usually a total nightmare." She decides that if Yasmin has any conscience at all, she'll start treating Riley better after this. Since she has to stay and keep watch anyway, Riley gets a devious idea to pass the time. She pulls out her sketchbook, determined to leave some evidence of Yasmin's embarrassing behavior. Morning light hits the room and Yasmin slowly blinks her eyes open. She's blindsided to find Riley slumped over right next to her, having stayed by her side all night. A wave of realization hits her. Did this girl actually pull an all-nighter just to make sure she didn't kick the bucket? Riley wakes up, looking just as tired as you'd expect. They lock eyes in a moment that's way too intimate for two people who usually want to throttle each other. Riley tries to play it cool, coughing awkwardly and pointing out that she's finally awake. She asks how the wounds are feeling, clearly trying to pivot away from the weird vibes. But Yasmin's sharp eyes catch something on the bed: Riley's sketchbook. Riley panics, slamming her hands down on the book like it's a classified document. Yasmin gets that predatory noble smirk, wondering what exactly was drawn in there. Riley insists they're just doodles and practice sketches, claiming there's nothing to see. Yasmin calls her out for being nervous, and the two end up in a childish tug of war. Suddenly, Yasmin fakes a huge surge of pain from her wounds. Riley falls for it hook, line, and sinker, letting go of the book to check on her. With the book secured, Yasmin tells her that if she won't talk, she'll just see for herself. Riley realizes she's been totally played by the master of manipulation. Yasmin flips the page, wondering who the real gullible one is now. Then she sees it, a drawing of a cat version of herself whimpering for her sister to hold her. It's basically an encyclopedia of her most embarrassing secrets from the night before. Yasmin's face turns a shade of red that shouldn't be humanly possible. She's internally screaming that this has to be a total hallucination. Riley just smirks, basically saying, "I told you not to look, hope you're happy now." Yasmin is genuinely terrified of her own drunk self. She can't believe she actually did something that embarrassing in front of her servant. Riley asks for her book back, but the damage is done. Yasmin refuses, her noble ego taking over to cover the shame. She calls the drawings ugly and confiscates the book on the spot. Riley is offended, internally ranting about how Yasmin is the ugly one and that her clingy mode was clearly just a fluke. Fast forward to the next day, and the academy is buzzing. The girls are gathered outside for a major event at the castle grounds. Principal Brian takes the stage, announcing the start of the archery competition. He tells the ladies to warm up their arms and prep their gear, promising extra academic credits to the winner. Riley watches Yasmin, worried that the girl can barely stand, let alone draw a heavy bow with those back injuries. Yasmin catches her staring and gives her a look that says, "Mind your business." She asks Riley if she's actually worried about her. Naturally, Riley explodes into a blushing mess, denying everything. Yasmin puts on her Ice Queen mask, vowing that nobody will ever notice she's injured. Riley watches her walk away, still feeling the tension. Internally, she scoffs that if Yasmin wants to push herself and suffer, that's on her, but she can't help herself and asks how she even got those wounds on her back. Yasmin stays calm, acting like everything is normal. She spouts some nonsense about being swatted by a wild bear in the woods. Riley isn't buying it, knowing Nara already spilled the tea about the marriage negotiations. Yasmin shuts her down, reminding Riley that as a servant, she's asking way too many questions. She pats Riley on the head, telling her she'll find out when she needs to know. Finally, she hands Riley a bow, challenging her to show off her archery skills. She wants to see if Riley is even qualified to be her opponent. The two lock eyes, the friendly vibes from the night before officially buried under their usual rivalry. The crowd is absolutely losing it because Riley is apparently a natural with the bow. She's hitting every mark with a confident smile, looking like she's got major main character energy. Even the Ice Queen Yasmin has to give it up, offering a rare, not bad, while clapping for the display. Suddenly, Riley is the most popular girl on campus, with everyone begging her for secret archery tips. She handles the sudden fame with grace, telling the thirsty crowd to line up one at a time. Internally, Yasmin watched the spectacle and realized, she sure is popular. The hype reaches its peak when the announcer finally calls the competitors to take their marks. Riley, Yasmin, and Nara step up to the line, and the tension is thick enough to cut with a knife. Arrows start flying immediately as the top three battle it out for the top spot. The spectators are already placing their bets, with most banking on Yasmin's legendary track record, while others call Riley a total dark horse. But the vibes shift when Yasmin starts sweating bullets during round 10. Her aim falters due to her hidden injuries, and the arrow misses the mark completely. The physical toll finally hits as Yasmin clutches her shoulder in agony. Riley screams her name, her heart dropping as she sees her partner in pain. She rushes over to check on her, but the noble's pride is still working overtime. Yasmin looks like she's about to pass out, her face pale from the strain. She tells Riley to stay back, refusing to show any more weakness in front of the crowd. Just like that, the favorite to win is officially eliminated from the competition. Despite being in total misery, Yasmin puts on a brave face for the audience. She calmly admits she lost, though the frustration is clearly eating her alive. The crowd is absolutely blindsided by the upset, wondering who's actually going to take the crown now. Nara sees her opening and thinks the championship is already in the bag. She talks a big game, telling Yasmin to just sit back and watch a real winner take the championship. The referee calls for a halftime break to let everyone cool off. They've got exactly 15 minutes before the final showdown begins. Riley isn't letting Yasmin off that easy, though, grabbing her sleeve to stop her from retreating. She offers a cloth to wipe away the cold sweat, acting like the ultimate caretaker. Internally, Riley was stunned, thinking, you've got quite a pain tolerance to force your way through 10 rounds like that. Yasmin is low-key salty about missing placing first place, but she's got a plan B. She grabs Riley's hands, looking her dead in the eye with a terrifying intensity. She orders her most loyal servant to go out there and win the whole thing for her. Riley's brain completely short-circuits from the physical contact and the sudden pressure. It's basically a cat-and-mouse game where Yasmin is the bossy black cat pushing her kitten into the fray. Riley complains about being treated like a slave, but she still lets Yasmin guide her back to the range. Yasmin gets way too close for comfort, providing some very intimate whispered coaching. She tells Riley to use her back muscles, practically molding the girl's body into the right stance. Riley is blushing like a tomato, distracted by how close their faces are. They look like a power couple as Yasmin steadies her aim and corrects her elbow height. Riley can't hear a single word of the advice because she's too freaking out. The tension is palpable as the heat between them rises during the lesson. Finally, Riley lets the arrow fly on command. However, the initial nerves make the shot land weakly in the dirt. Nara is absolutely fuming, wondering what kind of game they're playing. Yasmin just gives her a smug provocation from the sidelines, living rent-free in Nara's head. Nara prepares her shot for the final 5 rounds, fueled by pure, unadulterated spite. She scoffs at the idea that she needs Yasmin to hand her a victory. Little Chiba Yasmin is literally dancing in her head, mocking her every move. Nara screams fire and lets her arrow loose with everything she's got. The arrow streaks across the field toward the target, but Nara got played. She hit the outer rings, using a technique that looks flashy but fails to score. She stands there looking like a total clown, wondering where it all went wrong. Now it's Riley's turn to shut it down. She channels all that coaching and hits a perfect streak of bullseyes. Nara is literally face down on the grass, unable to process losing to a maid. Riley is stunned, barely believing she actually pulled off the win. The announcer makes it official for the entire academy. Riley is the new champion. She's so hyped she practically tackles Yasmin in a celebratory hug. The other students swarm her, begging her to join the archery club or take their money from bets. Riley is even forced to sign autographs on arrows like she's some kind of celebrity. Yasmin watches from the sidelines, noticing how radiant Riley looks under the spotlight. Her eyes soften, but there's a hint of something possessive lingering in her gaze. Internally, she felt a dark urge, thinking, I really want to hide the sun away. She takes a deep breath, trying to keep her cool as the crowd cheers. It's clear these two are just using each other, but the lines are getting blurry fast. Nara stomps over, accusing Yasmin of sabotaging her performance on purpose. Yasmin just smirks, admitting she dropped out specifically so Nara would fail on her own. Nara is ready to explode, calling Yasmin more infuriating than ever's her marriage negotiations. She decides to go for the jugular, bringing up the dark secrets of Yasmin's family. She mentions how the Astor family's eldest son wanted Yasmin's sister before she died in an accident. Now, the family is trying to swap in the youngest son to marry Yasmin instead, proving they have a unique obsession with the Granville women. Nara is officially playing with fire by bringing up Yasmin's dead sister. Nara tries to play it off as just repeating rumors, but Yasmin's murderous glare proves she definitely hit a nerve. Yasmin leans in, telling the brat she's well-informed but still doesn't know enough to realize the danger she's in. Nara is visibly shook, wondering what the heck she means. Yasmin warns her that some things are better left unsaid, especially when slandering her family right to her face. She reaches for an arrow, making it clear that disrespecting her sister is a one-way ticket to a bad time. Suddenly, she draws her bow on Nara, ready to turn her rival into a pincushion. She asks Nara what's faster, her running or an arrow. Yasmin threatens to shoot, and Nara's life flashes before her eyes as she retreats in terror. Nara screams that Yasmin has finally lost her mind and is completely crazy. As Nara flees like her life depends on it, Yasmin just smirks, having completely dominated the exchange. She pivots and fires her shots anyway, but not at the runaway coward. She nails a triple bullseye, proving she's been holding back her elite skills this entire time. Nara is left speechless, realizing she almost got cooked. Yasmin stands alone in the sunlight, looking like a total boss after reclaiming her dignity. Internally, she promises her late sister Lily that she won't make her wait much longer for the truth. She puts on a calm front as the flowers bloom around her, masking the storm brewing inside. Riley interrupts the brooding session to show off her new bling. She asks why Yasmin is spacing out and brags about the principal handing her the gold championship medal. Riley laughs about how Nara ran off looking like she'd seen a ghost. Yasmin cuts the celebration short, telling Riley they're making their move tonight. Riley is blindsided, wondering what kind of move involves her. Later, they spot Principal Brian walking through the halls. Riley is sweating bullets, realizing Yasmin actually plans to steal the principal's keys right off her belt. Yasmin explains the plan. While the principal leads prayers, they'll hit the office and Riley just needs to use her paintbrush magic to cooperate. Internally, Riley sighs. Why am I always the one doing the heavy lifting for this woman? Yasmin executes phase 1 by accidentally crashing into the principal. The principal is worried about her star student totally falling for the Wake Noble act. While being helped up, Yasmin's nimble fingers snatch the keys right off the principal's belt. She distracts the lady with some fake questions about scriptures while passing the keys off behind her back. Riley catches the loot, panicking over which of the many keys is the right one. She uses her paintbrush to copy the keys in record time before anyone notices. The principal praises Yasmin for being such a devout child and reading so carefully. She warns Yasmin to pay more attention when walking from now on, and Yasmin plays the perfect student. Riley pops up to finish the play, accidentally finding the keys on the floor. She points them out to the principal, who is still none the wiser about the duplication. The principal thanks them, thinking she's just getting old and clumsy. The girls take their leave, acting like total angels while the principal walks away. Once they're clear, Yasmin checks if the copy worked. They reach the office and Riley tries to stay quiet while Yasmin works the lock with the fake key. Riley is being way too loud for a haste, and Yasmin has to glare her into silence. The lock clicks into place and they're officially in. Yasmin tells Riley to watch the door while she hunts for the files. She scans the shelves, searching for anything related to Lily's accident. Bingo, she finds a suspicious envelope hidden among the books. But the victory is short-lived because Riley hears footsteps approaching from the hallway. They dive for cover as someone enters the room. It's Principal Brian returning to the office unexpectedly. She walks right past their hiding spot, nearly catching them in 4K. They're squeezed together in the dark, hearts racing in the cramped space. The principal mutters about her failing memory, wondering if she forgot to lock the door behind her. Yasmin is distracted by Riley's cat ears popping up from the stress, wanting to pet them. A student calls for the principal, saying prayers are starting and saving the girls from a discovery. The door slams shut and the lock turns as the principal leaves. Riley is about to have a heart attack from the close call. Yasmin leans in close, teasing Riley about how her heart is beating so loud it can be heard. Riley is fuming, asking if Yasmin isn't even a little scared of getting caught. Yasmin smirks, saying she's more afraid of the principal seeing them hiding together like this. Internally, Riley is short-circuiting, wondering why this girl always likes doing things that cause misunderstandings. They try to leave, but the handle budge the principal actually locked them in. To make matters worse, the duplicate keys have vanished into thin air. Yasmin's brilliant solution is to jump out the window, leaving Riley wondering how a noble lady became a professional thief. Yasmin immediately clocks that Riley's backup plan just went up in smoke since the duplicate keys are MIA. Without missing a beat, Yasmin suggests the most noble solution possible: jumping out the window like a common criminal, leaving Riley wondering why a high-class lady is so cracked at being a cat burglar. Yasmin doesn't wait for an answer and hops to the ledge, ignoring Riley's frantic whispers to take it easy. She dangles over the drop with zero fear, looking like she does this every weekend. With a quick grip and a light step, she prepares to make her move. She sticks the landing in the flower beds with the grace of a literal ninja. Yasmin looks up and hits Riley with the ultimate "your turn" look, low-key mocking her supposed professional skills. Riley isn't about to let her ego get bruised, so she flexes her muscles, ready to show this amateur how a real pro handles a 2-story drop. She sends it, flying through the air and landing in a perfect superhero crouch that would make Marvel jealous. Yasmin hits her with a sarcastic round of applause, making Riley's blood pressure spike, because the lady is definitely trash-talking her right to her face. Internally, Riley fumed. I've literally saved her life and she still treats me like a side character. But the universe has a funny way of humbling people, and Riley immediately catches a tow and starts a one-way trip to the dirt. Yasmin turns around just in time to see the human wrecking ball heading straight for her. Her eyes go wide as she realizes there is absolutely no escape from the incoming impact. Riley pulls a total pro wrestler move and tackles Yasmin directly into the flower garden. They end up in the most caught in 4K position possible, pinned together in the grass while the tension reaches a breaking point. Riley stares into Yasmin's eyes, stammering out apologies about how this was a total accident and definitely not a premeditated tackle. Yasmin just raises an eyebrow, looking completely unconvinced by the oopsie defense. She covers her mouth to hide a smirk, clearly enjoying how flustered her servant has become. Suddenly, the vibe shifts, and the only thing on Yasmin's mind is how surprisingly soft Riley is. Yasmin decides to flip the script, pinning Riley to the ground and claiming that this little accident is actually a major case of insubordination. She looms over Riley, who is currently short-circuiting from the sudden close-quarters combat. Yasmin doubles down, adding slander to the list of crimes because she's the master and she makes the rules. She gets dangerously close, asking exactly how she should punish this rebellious little artist. Riley tries to protest that Yasmin is just being a huge bully, but her heart is basically doing 100 miles per hour. Yasmin looks at her and thinks that Riley is indeed way too easy to tease, especially those lips that look incredibly tempting right now. She leans in for what looks like the ultimate spicy payoff, leaving the world behind for a second. But then the reality bubble pops, and Yasmin snaps out of it when Riley asks why she's just staring into space like a weirdo. Riley pushes her off, reminding her that they're literally in the middle of a heist and need to bail before the guards show up. Yasmin holds her head in shame, internally screaming, "I'm going crazy. How could I have a thought like that?" Riley watches her with a suspicious look, convinced that Yasmin is definitely cooking up some devious new way to make her life miserable. Realizing the vibes are beyond cursed, Riley decides it's time to ghost and get out of there as fast as possible.